Okay, we're going to draw Chloe today. And we're going to begin with a normal cranium. And big cranium for the big brainium. I should mention to my viewers at home, Chloe, who we're drawing, was the Rotary Student of the Month this month. So.
What subject did you get for?
Slow down.
Is social studies like your subject?
Yeah, calm down.
Okay, so this is just a generic skull form and the basic location of the neck.
Are you getting top grade?
In the other class, I included the student drawings at the end of the video. Maybe we'll do that today.
Did you at any point want to get top grade?
Wait. Slow down. Make it good. Not so quick.
I think I probably would go worse. Unless
Okay, so if we look at where the cranium ends, around the level of the bottom of the nose. So here's the curve of the cranium in front. And remember, what we learned is that the brow ridge is just below the center of that curve. So there's the center of the curve. You see there's the brow ridge. So find the center of this curve, and we're going to put the brow ridge right below the center, like that. We found the center of this curve, and we put the brow ridge right underneath it. Then we're going to be looking for this angle. So copy this angle. It's about, I would say, 30 or 35 degrees from vertical. Something like that. And look at the radius of the circle that defines the tip of the nose. About like that. And then the bottom of the nose slopes down slightly towards the philtrum. And a very important idea that I'm going to start emphasizing is the idea of the plumb line. If you know any carpenters, you know plumb line is a vertical line created by hanging a weight at the end of a string. If we pull an imaginary plumb line down from the front of the brow ridge, you can see it goes, that the philtrum is out in front of that line. So we're going to put our philtrum right here.
What's going on?
Now, one of the most consistent problems that my students have is putting the eyes too high on the head. So what we're going to do today is we're going to measure from the top of Chloe's head to the eye level and from the eye level to the bottom of the chin. And you can check this yourselves. I'm going to check it, and these dimensions are virtually identical. Would you agree with me? Yeah, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to put eye level right below this indentation. We're going to measure to the very top of the cranium. And then we're going to make sure we have exactly the same distance down to the bottom of the chin. So you can check your measurements like this, but these two dimensions have to be the same. So from bottom of the chin to eye level, and then eye level to the top of the head. Now the next proportion we're going to check is, we're going to ask ourselves, is the mouth 1/3 of the way down between the bottom of the nose and the bottom of the chin? Does that look like 1/3? Yeah, it's very close to 1/3. So we're going to divide this into thirds. We're going to put our mouth at the top third, like that. And then before we draw the rest of the lower part of the face, we're going to check our facial angle. And we can see that that tips back about as much as the nose tips forward. In other words, these two angles are very close to being the same. Can everyone see that? So we're going to coming out like that, and then we're going back like this. The upper lip almost touches this line, but not quite. The bottom lip does touch the line. And then the chin also touches the line. So the profile ends up something like this. And we're going to go almost straight back to the throat. And that's a sort of rough blocking in of what's called the silhouette. Another thing I want us to focus on is looking for parallel lines. So these parallel lines, this hairline is roughly parallel with the facial angle. Can you see that? So we're going to sketch that up there. And then we're going to block in the rest of the hair, which should make Maggie Strong look less like a man. Okay, well, I'm going to have to take a little pause then, because we can't have people giving up. So we're going to block in the ear now. The ear is level with the bottom of the nose and level with the top of the eyelid. So it's going to be back here somewhere. Owen, are you going to draw again?
I was just admiring my work.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and before we do the ear details, let's go ahead and get the... You know what? I put the ear a little too high. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah.
You will forgive this.
I made the ear a little too high. Okay, that's because I probably should have done the eye first. So let's do the eye. Let's get in. Let's look at some magnified. Okay, so when you're trying to figure out how far back to put the eye, picture another eye in this space. You see that? We could fit one eye in front of the eye, and that's going to help us put the eye in the right place.
I like the way your mom did that.
Now I just put the eye too high though, didn't I? The eye, remember this was my eye level, so I've got to put the eye a little lower down, a little bit about here. And remember, we talked about this is the first time we're seeing this in a real person, but the pupil is in the back of the iris, not the front. Can everyone see that pretty clearly in this photograph? So be sure you draw it like that. There's a little sliver of eyelid showing.
That big, bro. Yeah, I know. You really do make my the hell? Who is that woman? That is not her. The forehead is
Yeah, I do make mistakes just like you do, so I might have to fix something.
You shouldn't be. Who said that?
Delilah.
So there's the eyelash, which goes about halfway towards the indent at the bottom of the brow ridge. Now we're going to use a little fractional thinking here. So if we go from the bottom of the eye to the bottom of the nose, these are both locations we've found. We could say the top of the ala is a little more than a third of the way up between those two features. So that's going to help us place the top of the ala in the right place. And we can also go back to that plumb line idea. And we can see that the ala comes, if we pull a plumb line down from the brow ridge, the ala comes just a little bit behind it. So we end up with the ala being shaped sort of like this. And it's going to look weird until we put the nostril in like that. And of course the lips are not done because we didn't do the line between them yet, which goes up just a hair and then it goes down again and then back up again at the outside corner. And again, we could use a plumb line from the corner of the mouth. It should hit sort of around the front of the eyelid. So that's about right. And now we're going to scroll down a little bit. And a lot of you are going to want to outline this upper lip, but what we're doing instead is just shadow mapping it and putting in a little bit of shadow. And then we're casting a little bit of shadow onto the bottom lip. Here's a little shadow shape right under the bottom lip. And this is sort of an interesting thing to pay attention to. A lot of people think that where the color of the lip ends is where the form ends, but you can see here's where the form ends and here's where the color ends. So there's two different boundaries here, the color boundary and the form boundary. We always want to emphasize the form boundary as being more significant for the drawing than the color boundary. Notice this little curve, this little feature here is almost 45 degrees. And then the front of the chin is just a little bit flattened out. And I'm probably going to be adding just a little bit to the bottom here.
You don't have an identity.
Okay, let's look at, there's a little shadow shape under the nostril here, and the entire bottom part of the nose is in shadow, so we're going to put that shadow shape in. And we're also going to put the shadow, we're going to shadow map along the jawline like that, and we're going to do a first shading under here as well. In my advanced classes, I put in all the shadow shapes very early. That's a good habit to get into because you'll notice that as soon as you have some shadow shapes drawn,
She's in third lunch. Just drop the class.
she. Okay, I'm recording the video again, so let's just.
Got it.
Okay, now some people complain about the forehead maybe seeming too big in my drawing. It might just be that the hairline comes down a little further. The cranium is that big. I agree, it doesn't look like her yet. We're gonna hopefully figure that out, but
Don't be so hard.
we'll be looking at your drawings in the video in a few minutes, so I love it when my students beat me on portraits. Yeah, when somebody does a drawing that looks more like the person than mine does.
Like what I'm about to do.
Like, yeah, like what Owen's about to do.
That looks pretty accurate. No, not this one. You see. Yeah.
I know, I feel like this one is bad. No, it's a joke, but it's just a joke.
That's just bullying.
No, it was teasing.
She has bigger eyes. I think that's the issue. You see what I'm talking about?
Bigger eye. Well, the lower lid might be a little steeper. It's very subtle, little more iris showing. But that's the amazing thing about a portrait is there's literally nothing else in the world that you could draw that where a change of a 1/16 of an inch would be noticeable.
By your mouth. You know there's the lip and then you see that little swing.
This little plane change.
I think the big
This right here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so watch how I draw that. I don't draw it with lines going this way, because if I do, she's going to look really old. You see what happens? So what we do instead is we go to our first shading direction and just use that shading line to create a soft plane change.
She's got some eye bags.
Well, the Rotary student of the month often stays up late studying. So there's that.
Find this issue. What is it?
Well, also under my nose, it's like comes in more of an angle. The filter comes to the nose. I think.
Let's see. Filter.
I gave you a teardrop test, dude. Just like draw the sequence.
This angle's down a little more. Yeah, and then this. sort of kicks out a little more. But again, we're talking about like microscopic
I feel like it's the head.
changes.
Something with the forehead.
Well, we can pull that hairline down a little more.
You need him. Can you move the top part a little down like a smidge? Yeah, put it down a smidge.
You know your own drawing.
No, but I want
Um,
him to look.
let's go ahead and draw the ear, shall we?
You got some big eye ears.
Good idea.
That's so the Rotary Student of the Month can hear the lessons. So, she has a large ear but a small tragus.
Yeah, I can't get my traits to do
No, that's something you'll have to live with.
Well, if you do traits, Grace, you can't live right now, so.
You have a larger antitragus. This is the antitragus here. It's a little bigger than the tragus. And now we're gonna put your pencil down in the middle of the ear. Come up and around. And down like that. Notice that this crease at the back of the helix continues all the way down to underneath the antitragus in this case. And again, this crease I'm creating with a hatching line, not with a line that follows the contour. And now the part that everyone messes up, so pay attention. We're going to go from here. We're going to hook around and we're going to disappear under the helix. Pop a few shadows in and we're done. I keep feeling like I made the eye just a little too deep set, so I'm going to move my eye forward about 1/16 of an inch. See if that makes any difference. That helped a little.
Maybe you made me too smiley.
That's just going a little hard on this crease. Okay, now, from shading all the spheres and eggs that we've been doing, we understand reflected light now. And what I want you to see is that, well, first let's bring this shadow up a little bit. But there's a very strong, lovely reflected light underneath the jaw. So to create a sense of that, we go darker through here, just like if we're shading an egg, all the way to the tip of the chin, like that. And then we go a little darker under here, because this is cast shadow. So a little darker under here. And we leave this area a little lighter, and that creates the roundness to the face of the reflected light.
Oh my god, your drawing looks like my sister.
What does your sister look like?
Guys, stop fooling Mr. Allen.
No, that's what it is. It looks like Rose.
No.
Yes. I don't know what it is.
Can I see it?
Well, I made your bottom lip a little too full.
Yeah, most stuff how do problem.
Yeah, that made a slight difference. And also, we need to put you on a crash diet by just shading a little bit under the cheekbone. That's not a shadow, it's a halftone, but that is going to make your face a lot leaner looking. You see that? You see what that did? Really, it. And actually, this shadow still needs to come up a little higher. Okay, we're not going to do too much with the hair today. I guess I will go over that it's useful to start looking for shapes of light and dark in hair as well as skin. So if I shadow map the hair, I basically see one region up here that's dark and another region down here that's dark. And notice I'm just shading that with my first shading direction.
It's the missing link.
Yeah.
Why weren't you here?
This self-portrait project is harder than I thought.
Yeah, so the main error that I'm going to fix right now is the ear position. If you did the same thing, you can move your ear down a little too, but let's just move the earlobe down to about here. Ear placement is more important than you think because it suggests the angle that the head is turned. So I think this is going to make more of a difference than most people would imagine. I don't know how much of a difference, but. And I'm just going to make this eye just a little more wide open and alert. And maybe move the eyebrow up a little bit too.
Maybe like curly eyebrows. Yes.
And I think that's about as good as I'm going to do today. Let's take a look at your drawings. We're going to show them as part of the video. So let me collect them. So as promised, we're going to look at some student work today. This is an intro to drawing class. I'm not going to name names. We're just looking at the drawings, so that those of you who did the drawings can see how they look in the context of the class. Is Maggie still here?
What's up? You're showing the dog.
Yeah, we're looking.
Yes, I wasn't. That wasn't me.
That's actually pretty good.
Yeah, very good.
Oh, okay.
Are you just looking a bit old? I look like me in 50 years maybe.
This is Chloe.
Yeah, I like that one. Oh, that was the best.
Chloe by Chloe.
This one? Terrific. Oh wow, you're new. Yeah?
That's still an improvement.
Yeah, from my own pasture.
Okay, thanks for watching at home, and